So today we're doing Righteous Intervener, which is one of the main character spirit forms of the Nyy'xai. Before we begin, we need to give a little context, because I'm not going in the exact order here. Nyy'xai style, that's cool. The Righteous Intervener would be the third of the major conscious characters. So that is going to be first the Spirit Force creature, then it's going to be the Hidden Grove Guardian, and then we're over here to a modulating character, which is the Righteous Intervener. So that's important to note, is we're going to be talking about Z in a lot of ways here, but it's going to be a very specific form of Z infused character in that it's serving Nyy'xai if it's done correctly. And all these characters can have a standard form, called like an apparatus form, but it can also have a Daryu form. It can have a other companion form, means it's dancing with its unconscious characters, and it can also have like Fumasta in Shiny Baby form. And also, so that's kind of a context I may dip into today. Just be ready for that. And since we're on that, also the high stakes Priestess of Vi is sometimes when talking about the Z of the Righteous Intervener, you'll see sometimes a slipping into the high stakes Priestess or coming from the Hidden Grove Guardian. That's natural, and that's fine. Okay.
Is it a lot like the compound relationship? It's
exactly.
Kind of not inseparable.
Completely, because you may vacillate between once you know what you're doing, and not that you're probably doing it right now as Nyy'xai, you are doing it, but I mean you can do it constantly where you're shifting between all four of them as rapidly when you're good as just shifting between powers. Mm-hmm. Because really that's all spirit forms are, is they are just really complex and large energy patterns that are put together kind of like macros, so you can just press a button and like a large sequence of moves happens. Mm-hmm. Well, characters are basically like that. And eventually, once you become very familiar with the character, you can kind of like tag it in. And kind of like a GF, like in say Final Fantasy, when you do that, it kind of gives you powers and a whole bunch of things just happen automatically. Which is good, why it's good, excuse my voice, it's going out a bit here, but I really want to give this filming because it's a good one, it's the, what was I talking about? I'm sorry.
We're talking about the shifting between the powers and the sequence of moves.
Yes, it's good to, once you understand the basic mechanical nature of your pod powers and the alchemies and the relationships and so forth. And you need to know that. Different people have asked, like, okay, I really want to do it, but how do I do it? When it comes to like doing it, you really need to start thinking of it in character form because it's much easier to enact. It's very difficult, for example, for me to do Nyy'xai. What is that? Do you mean? I mean, I can drift, but but still, in real life, how would you apply that? For example, right now, if I want to think about something and use my Nyy'xai, I don't think about my Nyy'xai. In fact, that's not the point, because thinking about my Nyy'xai takes away from thinking about the big picture of what I was going to do. It's easier to think of, which for me is my first one, No World Walker. I think I'm walking like Silver Surfer. Right then, I'm in a more fantastical mood. This is important. For all spirit forming, it's easier to actually do the power when you kind of get into character. And that's why we do it this way. So for a Nyy'xai, getting into the Righteous Intervener character will pretty much boot up good Z with the appropriate Vi, with also momentum from the Nyy'xai. That's why it's really good to get in that character, because that character evolved with the Nyy'xai, and it already knows how to do Z in character really well, in a Nyy'xai storyline very well. I think I will now give some different things that came to my mind that struck me as being a Righteous Intervener a moment, or that kind of spirit form motif happening. Avatar is one that I've seen recently, and as my memory's not so great, I'm using that one. It's a really great movie, and I've seen it several times. And it's very Nyy'xai. So it has a lot of great Nyy'xai storylines there. In fact, all the 8 characters of the Nyy'xai and the Nyy'xai are represented in more than once in a lot of ways, so it's really cool. So I'll start with one that has several aspects of the Righteous Intervener, and that would be when the female character, she finds the guy in the woods. Mm-hmm. Now, her being in the woods natively says a lot to my other, who is a Nyy'xai, that she is a spirit force creature, that she is native to that. She's native there. And even for her people, she goes into the wild places. And she, while in this forest, has a love for it. That would be the Nyy'xai. Okay, so this is the character she's already in. That trajectory, that heroic trajectory is already in place. Okay, now with that heroic trajectory, she meets him. That's important. So for the Nyy'xai, the Z doesn't just come up out of anywhere. And if it does for Nyy'xai, usually it's out of like being surprised and it's not as harder to do, which can also work, but it is more difficult and can go to keening and stress a lot easier. So when she sees him, the first thing she does is she draws a bead on him. She's contemplating taking him out of the game. And why? Well, my other says there's no way around it. He fucked up. Her job at that point is to be a spirit force creature, hidden grove guardian who met an interloper. That's actually the storyline. Does that make sense? So it's not just it happened. Her character's already this wild force creature who's running around communing with it. And now, interloper. So that's important. So Z has come on because an interloper is where it should be. So she draws a bead on him. And I want to highlight this because 4 things happen very quickly. And each of these 4 could be an expanded motif that could go a whole comic. It could be its own thing. She could have killed him. And that could have been a storyline and she would have been correct. He was just some, stupid white dude who rolled up to the Indian place and he shouldn't have. He did it wrong. He was loud. He was stupid. He made the animals upset. So he got dropped. It happens, and that sounds harsh, and it is, but it's not wrong. That's important for the righteous intervener. That's what about the righteous intervener is. This isn't even like normal Z, just strong for strong, which Z can do also. This is Nyy'xai. This is I like this land all magical and cool, and I like it being kept pure, and you're not doing it right. So this is the question for the righteous intervener. How much force? What kind of force? For how long? That's basically it. What am I going to do? How does that work? When does it get called off? But engagement, it's going to be objective discernment. Action is going to happen now. So this dude fucked up. I mean, what? Nyy'xai and what the fuck? That's kind of what happened there. So she drew down him. If she had dropped him, that'd been okay. If he had fought back and had been extended, a big long battle scene that lasts a whole comic, she's still been right. If that happened and she died, it ended up going into high stakes priestess, still right. So that's important. So that momentary action sequence, this gets into how quickly the characters can change, because within the characters themselves are sub-characters. So there's many variations of the righteous intervener, and we're going to see 4 right now. Mm-hmm. So that one could have stayed, she could have stayed in the attacking version, with the other person running from her attack and her chasing it down for a long period of time until she got it. Or the creature fighting back and it being a long battle before she won. Or she chases something and ends up getting trapped and killed. Or the thing turns and fights her and is victorious over her. All those storylines, as long as she keeps doing what she's doing, is heroic. Even if it goes into high stakes priestess, even if it goes to the end. But the Z part focuses on the use of force. So at this part of the storyline, the Nyy'xai is in the command position. Very much of, I have the strength and what am I going to do with it? That's that role for the righteous intervener. To do the right thing with the strength you have. So she knows the woods, he's fucking up, he's walking around, he knows what's going on, she's got the weapon, he doesn't see her, I mean, he's a rube, he's got no abilities. So it's really up for her to decide what to do with him, and she's deciding he's too loud. But then what happens? A shift. We now go into a second character, but this character is also still the righteous intervener. It's still Z. There's a visit from the Hidden Grove Guardian. It's not her, though. The Hidden Grove Guardian can be a person, it can be an object, it can be a creature. In this, if you remember, it's those little, I don't know what you call them, they look like little star pollen.
Yeah.
Notice how they showed up out of nowhere. That's very Nyy'xai, okay? And it suddenly just appeared. And then remember, like the clinging effect, when it appeared, it chose him. Classic, it chose him to be blessed. This is important. As the righteous intervener, what did she do? She nodded her head to that. She's Nyy'xai Z. So that was the Hidden Grove Guard, in this case, the spirit of the forest doing it. But still, that's Jai to her. That's sacred Jai saying this person is to be protected. This person is special somehow. It has value. So, this is important. This is very righteous intervener. She, at this point, does not think he has value. She doesn't. She still doesn't. But the little star pollen, the Hidden Grove Guardian messenger, said he did. And as a righteous intervener, she pulls a shot up. So that's another part. If she had gone full on in the first one, that would have been correct. Now, because of the arrival of Hidden Grove Guardian, her deferral of the attacking blow is the correct thing to do. So she has to keep doing the Nyy'xai Z thing, or she's not the righteous intervener. She's just using force. Now at this point, the intervention was take him out. Then the next intervention was don't take him out. She could have stayed right then, and Nyy'xai does quite a bit. They have inner struggles in their mind. They understand a lot of complexity of humans, and they're not sure how they're going to play it. And often they're contemplating quite drastic Z actions one way or the other, and they're kind of like weighing them. After that's being done, that's righteous intervener, that thought process. That doesn't mean the person has to know. Doesn't mean you have to interact. But something changes it. He gets attacked. Okay, this is third. The first was he should be taken out. The next is let this moron, kind of like Native American Indians. I think this creature might be touched, so just let it walk on by. So she's gonna give it a pass. But now she goes from not just giving it a pass, she's actually going to exert herself, which puts her at risk. That's modulation. This is more modulation now. We're getting into keening now. So she comes in to fight for him and help protect him from this kind of like hyena-looking things. Now, this is crucial. When she does this, she is ferocious. And she is going for the win. For the win. That's important. Especially when I mentioned the fourth incarnation. When she, and actually the first two, she didn't like him. She wanted to take him out. Then she decided, I won't kill him. That doesn't sound overly enthusiastic for this fucker. Now she decides to go in. But when she engages, she engages. She decides, okay, for some reason, the Hidden Grove Guardian of the Forest chose him. I don't know what that means. Now that shows how important it is to her. She doesn't know what that means, but it means something, and that's worth risking herself. And not just risking herself, you'll realize in the fourth one, injuring those creatures. When she comes in, she makes a decision to save him, and she takes him out. She takes out quite a few of them. I mean, like, bad. She kills scores of them. I mean, it's a fight. She doesn't play. Niceness does not come into it. She made a decision to use her force in that direction. So that's very Z. Z like Zai, it's I use force or I don't use force. That's the question. So I use or I don't use it, and for who? So she decided that she wanted him to win. This is important. This is righteous intervener. That's only because her Zai, its connection, said it has to be. She doesn't really like him. That really highlights the righteousness of it, because she's putting herself at great risk and cutting them down in order to save him. Okay. Now there's another shift. He attempts afterwards, well actually it's four. There's four. There's five. Yeah. So after she saves him, there's a moment where it turns. She realizes they've scattered, they're not going to continue the attack. This is a more righteous intervener. You notice there's a lot of Zai that's going on here. Her Zai keeps being hit by stuff, and then she changes her Z accordingly. So the Z situation, that the Z-Zai connection is, okay, I have used the strength I needed to use. I have done the damage I had to do in order to satisfy. Then she stops. She very much goes into Hidden Grove Guardian and tries to bless the spirits of those creatures she was forced to kill. That is also very righteous intervener. This was not just bloodlust, the enjoying of killing or hunting and bringing back pelts. This was only done to save this creature, and now that that is over, the force is ended. That's important. She pulls back her claws. That's also righteous intervener. That's twice she's done that. She pulled the blade on him, pulled it back. Pulled it on the creatures, pulled it back. I really should focus on dichotomy, because that's the righteous intervener. Knowing, okay, it's a good thing to use my strength, because when you use Z, it's going to be rough, it's going to be forceful, it's going to get the win, and that's its purpose. So for the Nyy'xai, the question is it right? So she then takes it, she ritualizes, she uses her Z to do a ritual, a formality of how you kill something properly. She didn't want to kill it, but since it happened, now she has to do it properly. So she closes it. So that could have closed it too. That could have been the end, that fourth one. But there's a fifth one. He attempts to congratulate her, to thank her, to give her props. You know, jungle street cred. She, I believe, bitch slaps him for it. That's Z. And the reason is he fucked up again. Because that wasn't what that was for. And for her to take credit in that way, for her Z to swell up of, I am a great warrior, I did slay many jackals, I am brave. She could have done that and she would have been within her rights. She did just do that, but that's not why she did that, and she won't dishonor it. She will dishonor the fact that she didn't want to do it by saying after she killed 20 of them, yeah, that was pretty cool, huh? No, that would be low, so she's not gonna do that. So that's a good use of 5 different righteous interveners, very rapid succession. But any of those motifs could have extended in a whole storyline and stayed in that character. And as long as it was right to do so, it would have been heroic and powerful to stay in that one. Avatar, because it had so many of them in there, because it really did a lot with the Nyy'xai's full storyline.
Yeah, it was really nicely done.
So, teaching is a big one. Is once she decided, or really got decided for her, that she was going to have to teach him. But that's important. That's another one. She didn't want to teach him. For 2 reasons, I think. 1, she liked being free. She's Nyy'alpha. And 2, her Nyy'xai liked him, and that was gonna be awkward. So that was not very appealing. So when she was made to do that, she kind of pouted a little bit. But then, what did she do? Eins, zwei, drei. If we're going to do it, then we're going to do it. And she teaches him, right, how to run, how to get the food, how to ride those cool-looking multi-legged horses, and also how to ride those really cool birds. So she teaches him all the Z of this way of life, all the real Z stuff, how you do it here. You know, all the essential, practical skills that actually will allow you to be one of our kind. And that kind of brings in another part of it. She's teaching him, and she's testing him. That's a lot of the Nyy'xai will do. Is Z is done to help make those stronger who are worthy. And that usually starts with Nyy'xai to decide that, and also to test if you're worthy. So that's a lot what it's used for. She was really grooving on him. She liked that he was a cool guy from a different world, and she was in love with him. That was really cool. But then he fucked up. He turned out that he had not told her something that he should have told her about. And so she puts the freeze on him. She pretty much, I don't remember exactly, but I think she doesn't let him be in the tribe anymore. She basically gives him a full-on definite boundary setting, basically you're cut off. So with force, that's it, you're checked. You can't be around us anymore. So that's a very legalistic use of power, but it was done from a Nyy'xai place. He was no longer interesting, he was dangerous. He was no longer good for her heart, he was toxic for her heart. So her Z came in to do what it needs to do. So the other righteous intervener was talking mainly about her with him, but the righteous intervener can also be with her own heart. So earlier, the Nyy'xai was more represented by the forest. He was clouding around the forest, he was fucking up that hidden grove guardian, and that was she was fighting. Now, later on, she's defending the tribe, in a way, and also her own heart. So the righteous intervener can be used in all kinds of ways, in your own mind, out with people, against institutions. It can be used in all kinds of ways, really. Anytime the use of force and the suppression of emotion is necessary to play the heroic part correctly. He comes back. He fucked up, and so you could say that there's no coming back from that, but she's a Nyy'xai. So you could come back from that if you can ride that last shadow thing, which is, it sounds kind of like, you know, Nyy'xai do a lot. They pick some just things like that can't be done. But if she makes someone do it, then cool. I didn't expect she actually pulled it off, so cool. So he actually did show up with the last shadow, which she's like, oh, okay, I didn't think you could do that. But when that happens, she switches again. One thing about the Z of the righteous intervener is it can turn rapidly because of the knee. With knee being over it, it's going to be rapid, and the rapidness is going to have to do with how the Nyy'xai is being affected. So the Nyy'xai's hit a different way, then the Z goes a different way. But when it does, it goes the wind in that direction. So she was in the mode of self-protection of her own heart, of her people, of the forest. But then with the last shadow coming in, her Nyi is like, aha, that's a new power on the board. That's one thing. Her Z can shift tracks very quickly. That's one thing. It can turn on quickly, disappear quickly, and jump tracks quickly because of it being under an interpretive power. And let's just be honest, values-based power. The values-based channel is more volatile. So you have the rapidness of the Nyi with the volatility of the Nyy'xai. So that is important for Nyy'xai to understand. Their Z will have a blades. Oh no. You know, it'll come out, it'll go back in, and that's okay. That's part of its character, just you have to know how to use it like that. So she does the correct thing, which is she now throws her strength behind getting an army. Okay, that's the act. So she sees that that's now the winning play, so she puts all her energies into doing that. But always the motivation is her Nyi, what is this meaning? That's why she's being raised to be a medicine woman. She wants to know what meanings are. What's the big picture? And then, what's my position? What's the right thing to do? Eve, it's hard. I give her credit. I mean, she pouts some of the movie, but overall, she's a very advanced character because her Nyy'xai makes the right call every time. She may pout some, but she makes the right call every time. Very heroic character of a Nyy'xai. So in all these circumstances, I like this movie because there's lots of righteous intervener, but it's coming off the trajectory of a proper Spirit Force creature, Hidden Grove Guardian, and as mentioned in other filmings, every time the high stakes Priestess came up, she nailed that too. So it's really good to see how they weave together because she weaves in and out of them throughout. The end fight, this is pretty much obvious, but it's one that you'll see a lot, is that Nyy'xai don't like to use force naturally. It is a modulation power unless there's some obvious need. So one of the things that can get them to use their Z very, very powerfully is when others are in danger. And so one thing a lot of Nyy'xai do who are very heroic is they put themselves in the company of virtuous people who are in danger. It's one of the most noble things about the Nyy'xai character. And so that requires a lot of having to dash in to save the day. So for example, in the last scene, the last fight, is the Nyy'xai hero is facing off against the machine guy, and well, the machine guy kind of has some unfair advantages, so he's not able to beat it. It's really cool because you need the full Nyy'xai storyline to win. They actually work in tandem to beat, because he's not really a guy. That guy represents pretty much this like Armageddon army from this fucked up toxic world that's going to come in. So he has all those powers, and so it takes really a complete, beautiful, magical story to counter it. And so one thing which you notice is her quickness. Is she hits with her Z, but she's able to dart in and out. There's a darting quality in a very positive way that the Nyy'xai have. It's one of the things that makes their Z so cool. Me being a Nyy'xai, one is it's not as frequent, so it's not actually like too much. But also, it's so quick. It can come in off the Nyi. It can use improving, it can use trend tracking, and the Z is almost like a blade. So it's almost like they're naturally flying that way anyway, and now they're like, ching, out come the claws. But they're still flying like a Nyy'xai. That's the difference between someone, by the way, you may ask, how do you tell if someone's overmodulating? If they'll slow down and be more clumsy if they're overmodulating. If it's just Z claws coming out for the righteous intervener, but the Nyi is still fast, the Nyy'xai is robust, no, that's just a blender coming right at you. So, yeah, very cool. And she used that power in the end because she has to dart in through all this danger, and it's very chaotic. There's guns going off, there's her lover in danger, being hit by her, there's rhinos going on, there's crazy shit going on. I think the force is even coming alive, it's gnarly, there's fires. Okay, so it's very reminiscent of the Nyi Alphas being colorful in the storm. The guy has actually kind of locked eyes on the other one. They kind of locked in kind of like a death spiral. She's dancing around through all the other activity and keeps shooting in arrows, which I relate very much to the Z, kind of like the lightning effect. In my screenplay, there's a person who has, ironically, and just came to me in a vision, was a bow with lightning. I think I like that. Anyway, long story short, is she's able to dance in and out and not get caught herself. That's important, because a lot going on that could snag her. So to help her partner out, being the righteous intervener, this could later on to pair things, but I'll say a little bit here just because it's one part of it, is she's able to take care of herself. Being Nyi Alpha allows her to stay unhittable. And he also doesn't have to look over her shoulder. Why? Nyy'xai, she ain't leaving. So Nyi, she can roll, she's down, she's fast, and she's not gonna leave. And she's going to hit. She's going to use her blades now everywhere she can. She does. She consistently hits the enemy without getting caught herself or getting her mate in any danger. Very cool person to have on your side. I'll just mention the boy in the dream you were talking about is one thing I saw from that is that there's probably going to be a righteous intervener moments coming in there, and there could be different ones that I mentioned. I'll get more into it now since this is that section. Is when first meeting the boy and the companion, there needs to be a checking of whether or not their storyline is important. Even for the Nyy'xai who may be a good person. But first we have to figure out if it's a good person. Z knows how to test people. Z is very, very good at vetting people. So it's going to vet them to see, you often see some things where the sort of mercurial forest creature meets someone who might be cool. What's she do? She asks very, very hard questions, fast, trying to shape the person. And if the person doesn't shake, that means that probably they're smart and good. Because they're quick enough that their mind captures what's going on, so they're not a dullard, which would be annoying, especially in the alpha, but also that their heart must be pure because they didn't have to overthink it. They just gave good code of conduct or virtuous answers through being authentic or code of conduct. So that is a sort of a motif of how Nyy'xai greet people they don't know. Nyy'xai should be aware they're doing this. Some Nyy'xai don't know they're doing this and they can be over-barbed. It doesn't mean, however, that this interaction's bad. It actually supposed to happen. Nyy'xai are kind of designed to do this when they kind of first get to know people, especially if they're not sure who you are. But it can be done very charmingly, and more importantly, it can be done knowingly, especially because we're talking about Z. We're now on the directive side of the psyche, so when you use Z, you can register the protocol of it. So for those who are Nyy'xai, I'd register that anytime you're trying to get to know someone, you tend to have a bit of interrogator quality to you, which is fine as long as you know to use your knee to keep it interesting, to keep it light, to keep it multifarious, as you like to say, so it doesn't seem too belligerent, because it can be misinterpreted that way. Z can be misinterpreted as belligerent very easily, but having a lot of knee keeps it playful. Zhai keeps it trustworthy. So those important things to note is that it's not wrong to have your little interrogation session when you first get to know people, because that is how you're wired. So you're actually missing important data for your character or your storyline if you didn't go do that. So sometimes Nyy'xai don't do that because they feel barbed. They feel pointy when they do that. Other ones do that, but they don't realize they're being pointy because they're not doing it right. So you are supposed to do it, but you're supposed to keep the knee and the Zhai up. Keep it playful. Keep a sense of empathy to this person. Doesn't mean that you're going to like them. They might be toxic. But hold out the hope that they might be cool. So you notice that this character, this impish, mercurial, fairy-like character can be more, who's interrogating, it can be more sort of mean-spirited, callous, capricious, or it can just be a really clever guardian who's going to test you to see if you're smart enough, strong enough, good enough to continue on. If you are who you say you are. If you are who you say you are, you should be able to handle a little pushy. So Z's going to give you a little shove. But it can be playful and it can be done from a good spirit. So that will go far, and that will be interpreted in the environment differently. Because the knee will make the Z split up into like this multifarious, as I like to say, sort of like tsunami that can swirl around but not touch you. The knee is very intangible, and then the Z can zip in and out, and almost like what my others give me now, you see like different birds or fish who are able to like clean other fish off, like sharks. They can clean things off, so they're biting and they're scratching and gouging, but they're able to do that and not overly hurt the other creature. So it's very precise. So the knee will give a looseness. It'll be more hatchet-like, more cleaver-like, the more pure Z it is. It'll be more fencer-like, much more like a martial artist with some cool, spinning weapons, nunchaka, when the knee is involved. You're always going to have to check yourself afterwards, or in this case, resonate. Because when you use force, you're going to have to ask if that's okay. And everyone has to do that who has Z and Nyy'xai, their conscious powers, but since you have Nyy'xai over it, you need to know that after you use your force, that afterwards you're going to go home, and your amorphousness is going to kick in, and you may or may not feel guilty. So it's very important that you know that when you're doing it. Keep your Nyy'xai in mind when you're doing it. But that does not mean to not use Z. A lot of times the Nyy'xai will say, hit him hard. So the boy, you may question him. You may also question the companion. You may also question the two of them together. And that's where you really start seeing the power of the righteous intervener, is the cleverness. This is the ability to, because the other ones are very, very overt. Now we're going to shift to another aspect of it, which is also very, I want to use the overt one because it makes it obvious to see it. But now we're going to show a lot of its power, which is it not being seen. Is a righteous intervener can dance around, often with humor, with charm, with wit, so that Z questions are being asked. Z boundaries are being set. But it's so, you can barely tell, almost like, I don't know what you call that. The vision I'm getting right now is you throw up like a pizza or a bubble, and what's in the air, you need to hit it with, like, it's very neat, a zillion light touches. If you hit it with a zillion light touches, it'll spin. It'll stay spinning in the air. You won't puncture it. This is the right, because you're using force, but it's so deft and all over and pattern based that you're hitting it so it just keeps moving and it doesn't fall apart. Oh, and with the boys in this analogy, where you're maybe seeing if they're cool or not cool, I don't know what the two children is dancing around, being playful while checking for important things. And in fact, if that one person, as you saw, this important you note, may be a clever traitor, a mole, a person with a double agenda. This is a complex person. Probably, Z, if this person is like, if we're starting the adventure with, they may be a tricksy traitor. Probably straight up Z is not going to work. So maybe use Z, and like Gollum, the creature cowers and makes it to where you can't use Z anymore. What do? You still use Z, but you do Nyy'xai Z. You dance, you watch, you wait, you play around, and you get what you can get until the moment to hit full on with Z presents itself. That's when, again, mentioned the Nyy'xai have a secret agent quality to them, that you're seeing it there. The ability to dart in and out with Z, both the speed I mentioned before, but there's also you don't see it. So there's a dart in speed, but also can be the hand is quicker than the eye. You actually don't see the Z in action, which is very, very potent. Z you see is potent and scary, but actually Z you don't see, that's very potent. And to my kind, I think that's the scariest. Which is why I like having it for a partner. Advocacy is if it turns out that that creature or person is a traitor. Now we get to another complex one. We're seeing all the variety of the righteous intervener. What if it's true, but that's not how you're going to be able to dispel this bad situation? Because the crucial thing, I'm sure you've seen many movies like this, is that the boy trusts the untrustworthy. You must break the spell that this person has on your friend. So let's say the boy ends up being a friend. The boy may fight you. The boy may fight you over the traitorous friend. So this gets into advocacy and the wordsmithing. The Z from Nyy'xai Z can get very, very wordsmithy. Nyy'xai Z is very wordsmithy, and Nyy'xai to break spells that are on people. It's a very cool thing to do. So you can make a very clever legal argument to show that person's a traitor. And that's done for Nyy'xai. Does that make sense? That's done because of a sense of empathy to a trustworthy person. But the Ni is going to find a clever way to show that person's wrongness. So it's Z. The Z will call it, but it has to be Z that is almost like a weather balloon. The balloon part's like the Ni. Does that make sense? What you're watching, that's the Nyy'xai because you care about the boy. But when you actually start making moves, you start actually hitting things, that's like the dude in the actual basket with like a stick. So that's what's actually happening at that point is the, oh, that distracted me. What are we talking about?
The person in the basket with a stick.
The boy?
Advocate.
Oh yes, the ability to come in and out, and the ability, so yes, There is the suddenness, the dardiness, there's the hiding quality of the Z, but now there's something else. This is the ability to trick, to get people to show. I think Nyy'xai made great undercover agents as well, kind of like deep undercover work, because they're very good at sort of staying in the storm, but getting their plan, doing their plan while not being obvious about it. And a lot of times, one of the main powers that Nyy'xai have, a lot of times, is the ability to get other people to give up things they didn't plan on giving up. Well, I tell you one thing, that traitor probably doesn't want to give up that secret. That's probably something he wants to keep on the down low. So Nyy'xai are born righteous intervener. Ooh, the reporter. The investigator reporter is a classic righteous intervener spirit form, because that character, the curiosity makes you want to go out and see things in the world. But for what? Zhai. Things that are good, that are right, that make you feel good, that people should know this would help people, would help me. Then the Z is you have to break that story. That's a show of force. It's a show of force, and actually gets into a vibe of defending your what you write, because in print it's permanent. But the actual act of saying this is how it's going to be. Anytime you use force of voice, force of arms, force of money, force of authority or position, you're exerting your Z. You're actually saying, like, I'm actually going to say that's how it's going to be. For the Nyy'xai, should be because the Ni sees it, the Zhai approves of it. If so, then it can get a little tricksy. That's important to note, because I mentioned before that sometimes the Nyy'xais feel bad about how their mind's very complex that way. Is the Nyy'xai have, I get into the context, it might make it more palatable first, but it does have a full gamut, is sometimes in teaching, I've mentioned like the Nyy'xai, often a story is the best way to teach someone because it gets in when no other way can. Nyy'xai have another one. They trick you. They distract you. They fascinate you. They captivate you. And they basically lure you and trick you into playing a game. And once you play the game, you realize, oh, that was helpful. So it's actually done for a very good reason. You see teachers do all the time. Little kids, they have to trick them into doing something that's helpful for them. So what Nyy'xai will do, you see a lot of Nyy'xai teachers and young kids, they like that profession often, is they're like, okay, this boy does not want to do such and such, or girl, whoever, but they need to do that. It's actually bad for their health, or bad for their anxiety, or bad for their whatever, the grades. They need to do this. So you use the Ni to find a game to play. And that game has Z, that's a good word for it, laced. It's laced with Z. So you play a game and you give goodwill and safety with the Zhai, which makes a person play a game they probably wouldn't play otherwise. So you start playing the game with you, but play the game with you because you're trustworthy. And then as you do it, you use your Z to walk them down to where they need to go, and then they have a success. And you basically give a creature success. They will build more successes, but maybe that initial success they couldn't get to on their own. That's when the righteous intervener can do a lot, is there can be impasses in a person's growth or learning or safety or journey, and they can come in, they can do what they need to do. I mentioned before, they always do that just by giving blessings. But sometimes you're giving a child blessings and encouragement, but it's not working, and you kind of gotta give them a little bit of a shove, but you want to do it really nice. So it's kind of a righteous intervener is how to shove correctly. And nicely, and righteously, because in the case of actually, if the lady from Avatar shot the guy with the arrow, if it had gone that way and the forest had not said this guy's special, well, then that would have been okay. Oh, so advocacy, you see it in the child or there. That happens in a lot of other real-world circumstances where the Nyy'xai will be able to move in ways that other people can't. Particularly having the Ni for speed and complexity, but also the Zhai for the psychological and emotional quality. Is Nyy'xai are very aware of the pain and the discomfort and the barriers that other humans are experiencing. Often better than that person is. So the righteous intervener can often know sort of a very forceful or authoritative action that needs to be taken in order to help that person out, even when they don't know it needs to happen. So I think Nyy'xai often can do anything. I mean, they can do things you wouldn't think they might be into, like law, which is very like Z, which we think, oh, why they like to do that. But if they can use it to help people, to do causes they feel good about, and to be clever, to find a way to get people to win, a downtrodden good person or good people, and you wouldn't think they could win. But Nyy'xai are like, oh, there's gotta be a way. There's gotta be a way. And so Nyy'xai will keep looking for ways just so they can feel good as a hero, because that makes them feel very heroic. And then the Z will present itself, and then they can take action. So the righteous intervener can show up in all kinds of things where you need to be able to jump in and out of a system in order to save good things. So I want to use that very kind of broad motif because it can be used in almost any career, any action where the ability to see something going quickly and immediately recognize, because Nyy'xai is the fastest like that, recognize what's going on and then have their heart tugged on because other people aren't understanding what's going on. And the Z goes, they're not going to get on the bus, and then they're not going to get where they want to go, and he'll miss his concert and be all sad. It sounds funny, but Nyy'xai, they're very quick, and they go, oh, and then grab someone, put it on the bus. And because they know that quick Z action will be validated later, and their Zhai will be very happy that they did that. Support. The Nyi often can see things that are missing, and the Zhai can tug on them that they need to do something about that. So the Z can come in and arm. It can give support to those who are struggling. So there's a very strong motif also. There's the investigative reporter and so forth. There's the nurse, there's the teacher. There's also the revolutionary person who oftentimes can operate because of the very social ability of the Nyy'xai and the ability to move and adapt so well. They often can be in the enemy's camp, giving information to the resistance, the good resistance. That's very Z. That's the information of like the classified documents and when things are happening, the schedules of the enemy's troop movements, all kind of stuff. That's all Z, but the reason it's being done is Nyy'xai. So again, it's still very much righteous intervener. I was actually going to go there. I'll mention something that I didn't get to the last time, and this has a little high stakes priestess into it, but actually the high stakes priestess is implied. And what you're actually seeing is the righteous intervener. Is the last scene. Do you remember? The man comes out, the bad man, the main villain, and he is a very, very powerful dark Fumasta, and like all dark Fumasta has a hypnotic quality to him, a sort of make you drunk on that energy. When he comes out, he's now been seen for what he is, and the tides have turned. But it's just happened. The people are newly in their power. That's important. Newly in their power, which means they can be slow to exercise it. And they need to exercise it right now. Because he comes out and he attempts to put a spell on them. He attempts to say, I know I'm going to die, but I'm going to use my last death spell to tell you how you are going to raise this boy. And I'm almost positive the Nyy'xai woman who comes out, and she that's classic righteous intervener, she basically gives him a legalistic ritual of no, that's not how the law of the land's going to roll. The law of the land's going to roll like this, Eins, zwei, drei. She tells him that's going to lay out, and I felt sure from the eyes she was giving him that her high stakes priestess, the vibe of that, she was going to honor that to the day she checked out. So her Z said, you're stopped, and her high stakes priestess would honor that check all the way. So awesome stuff. We will choke up, but that was badass. And that's important because the village, you notice, they kind of realize, oh, the tide's turned. But they're kind of like, they haven't realized yet. And see, the Z of a Nyy'xai Z, it comes off the mind of a Nyi Alpha. Speed. Just like, that's why Nyi loves game changers. They love when the game changes because they operate quick like that. So the villain was going to try to take advantage of this momentary wobbliness. She did. Her Nyi was like, oh, I see what's going on here. Her Zhai locked onto that kid, and hers, they said, no fucking way. So, yeah. Awesome. Transportation. I mentioned sort of like the communication, the helping people to learn and so forth. There's also just a general transportation quality. Z also often has to do with like travel of cars, of timetables, of packing, things like this, in also a metaphysical sense as well. So that bird that you like, the bird analogies, it relates to like the spirit form creature as a sort of lighting guide that flies, but then also relates when it alights on someone and gives the blessing. There's also something, if you read up those kinds of traditions, that those birds often have as well. They physically do it, or after the blessing, the persons now have it, they can go over bridges they couldn't go over before. That's a very common theme. They can pass into realms, go over bridges, they get some kind of magical travel. So that's something also that the righteous intervener can do, is they can see someone being stuck metaphysically or physically, and they're like, oh, I can take you there. Because Nyy'xai is so quick, they can come in, grab someone, help them out, jump back onto their Z track and not even miss a beat. They can do that, so that's a really cool power they can have. I think I mentioned medical. You see a lot of Nyy'xai being doctors and nurses, other healthcare professionals, shrinks, and I think I see it really highlighted in kind of like any kind of like ER or any kind of like high crisis moment, because the ability to do the Z correct thing, the life-saving thing, which must be done very, very logically. There's no room for anything else but cold logic to get the procedure done correctly. But it helps to be extremely fast because things are changing very, very quickly, and it helps to care. So if you're in that kind of situation, that'd be a great person to have, the righteous intervener, because they're not going to miss things. They can juggle an incredible amount of things under an incredible amount of stress. The storm thing, they're like storm dancers. So they can dance in a storm, they give a shit about you, and they're a pro. So that's what you want. So the righteous intervener done correctly is a very powerful character, and very helpful character to the tribe. The Boondock Saints, number 2. The second one, there is a new character who is a Nyy'xai, I believe, and she is tracking them down. And this is another classic righteous intervener. You see, righteous intervener has so many different ways it can come out. She's tracking them, and she is a expert investigator. And she comes on the scene, and you kind of see a lot of Z right off the bat, because she basically, at first you might think she's Z, because she bitch slaps all the guys in there who are trying to do the case because they're incompetent. But one thing's interesting is she beats them up at first with the Z of just their general incompetence, but she doesn't give much explanation, just that they're stupid. But she does the righteous intervener throughout, and one thing you'll notice changes is she does, as you see her character, she cares with her Zhai that these people being gone after are actually guilty. The cops have kind of just assumed they're guilty. As a righteous intervener, one thing that makes her a righteous intervener, she's not done that. Her Zhai didn't do that, and she kind of later on, I believe, sort of one thing she does, she kind of, in some way, chastises them on that. That's why, because later on they kind of are so awed by her ability, they kind of come around, they're like, okay, tell us how you do your mojo. And that's one thing she kind of chastises them on, I think, in a way, it's sort of like their assumption of the villain. They want the bad guy to be the bad guy, and wanting something to be something just because, that throws you off. The other thing is, they're lazy and slow. They were not quick. They were coming into it like a job. She wears earphones and listens to music. So she's going into an artistic place. That's another thing later on, as she explains to them. I don't think she does it like maybe like word for word, but in her way, she basically, I think she does more Z in them, she more makes fun of them, but highlighting that their state of minds while they're not getting it. She basically shows the reason why I keep fucking you up with Z and you keep missing shit and looking stupid is because your heart's not in the right place and your mind's small. So if your mind wasn't so small and your heart wasn't so toxic, you'd be getting this, well, you still wouldn't be me, which is awesome. She's a badass, but you'd be better. You wouldn't be so dumb. A couple things, again, righteous intervener, when she starts to realize as she's chasing these people that the story that she's getting, because she's kind of an investigative reporter in a way, but sort of in a criminal way, the story she's getting is, I don't think these are actually bad guys. So she actually does not do what the law says will do. She does what her Z says to do. That's important. She's Nyy'xai Z. She's doing Z because she thought she could do Z in the Z institution and do Nyy'xai Z. But this case challenged that. This case made it that she cannot do the institution Z and still do Nyy'xai Z. And she makes the right thing. She goes with Nyy'xai Z. And she's recruited in the end, which I hope means there's going to be Boondock Saints 3. I don't care what people think of that movie. It's a guilty pleasure. I love it. So, there. The 70s show, the mother, Nyy'xai, you often see her do righteous intervener. She's very, very chipper. She loves people and doesn't want to hurt their feelings and wants to give them lots of support. But sometimes they're being stupid. And she'll often try to be nice to them and go, which is, that's basically Rice Intervener giving you Z of, oh, I love you, so I wish you were being stupid. Please stop being stupid. So she does that with her children and even her husband of like, oh, you're being stupid now. Oh my goodness, I wish you would be dumb. It's, you know, it's bad for you to be dumb. And so it's a very sweet way to be told that you're being a little stupid right then. And another one which I noticed is, I think, oh, sweetie. Oh, sweetie. That seems to be a very Righteous Intervener phrase. It seems to be, I think, I remember it because the character Sheldon says so in Big Bang Theory. Oh. She goes, oh, sweetie. And then Sheldon goes, or is it Sheldon or some other character? I might be remembering that wrong, I'm sorry, my memory's crappy. But anyway, I remember that moment when one of the characters says, oh, sweetie. That's always what you say right before you say something we don't want to hear. And she does something, oh, sweetie. Yeah, you can't go out of the house like that. So it's kind of like all these like nice, bracing things you have to hear or be told or get checked on. But the person's trying to be nice about it. It's coming from a good place. But the good place that it's coming from is telling you, oh, yeah, that's not going to get you a good score. In fact, you know what's doing, oh, sweetie, so I came to mind. The Nyy'xai lady who does the ad for the insurance. The real cool one, she always it's like wears the white and blue. Anyway.
Oh yeah, okay.
So one thing she does like is there's this part where the one guy's like kind of rocking out, and she's like, "Oh, sweetie," you know, and it's the same thing as the character Big Bang of like, "Oh, I like you, and you're my friend, my coworker, but you're kind of making an ass of yourself right now." So Righteous Intervener can be there to kind of let your friends know, "Yeah, there's the line. Here's you." My other. Was playing the song in my head today, so I started listening to it, and the lyrics of it, she, being a Nyy'xai, very much called to her. She likes it, makes her feel badass. It makes the Righteous Intervener come up, so she said I should do it. It is the song, excuse me, Short Skirt, Long Jacket by Cake. Okay. I want a girl with a mind like a diamond. That to me sounds like me. Nyi with Z is very diamond-like. It's super sharp and fast. It just seems like just speed and sharp. Okay. I want a girl who knows what's best. I don't know what this person meant, but this person is a Nyy'xai, and therefore I'm certainly talking about a Nyy'xai here. And this very much sounds like a Righteous Intervener. So I'm going to interpret, we're reading a lot of math here, so I could be wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I want a girl who knows what's best. Jai. So she's a mind like a diamond, Nyi, but she's not a Nyy'xai. She's a Nyy'xai. She knows what's best. Although I guess you could apply that to a Nyy'xai, but I think in this context it means knows how to be a good person, because it sounds funny because short skirt. I believe the short skirt and a few other things here are actually highlighting that this is a Nyy'xai. A Nyy'xai in badass mode. So short skirt is Nyy'xai, long jacket is Zibai. So my other here is short skirt, long jacket. She's hearing Nyy'xai Zibai. Okay. I want a girl with shoes that cut. That's Z. So we have Nyy'xai Z. And eyes that burn like cigarettes. That's Vi. When Nyy'xai, actually Nyy'xai in their way too, go into their Vi mode, and it's actually part of their heroic trajectory, they will get a delirious lock-eye, because Nai and Vi are very lock-eye, very hunter-like. So that will be a very like staring right through you kind of gaze. So I think that's what he's referring to here. And eyes like burn like cigarettes. Nyi eyes. I want a girl with the right allocations. Excuse me. Now, I interpret that to be Jai. Because I mentioned before, with the Avatar, there's a lot of use of force, use of energy, use of authority, use of power, but for the right reasons. The correct allocation of assets, the correct allocation of force, of resources. Z's very much like G, it's about resources and putting them in play to get wins. So, I want a girl with the right allocations, who's fast and thorough and sharp as a tack. That's Nyy'xai. Who's fast and thorough and sharp as a tack. Now, this sounds like Nyy'xai Zibai. She's playing with her jewelry. She's putting up her hair. I take that to be the jewelry are like charms, And Nyy'xai can still use and should use their Ni charms when in righteous intervener mode. That's part of their powers, to have Z with the charm. I want a girl, what's that? Oh, she's putting up her hair. That to me says she's putting her Zhai in tower mode for contact, engagement. She's kind of putting your hair up, kind of like your hair is down, kind of you're letting yourself out. She's putting it back, putting it like, we're gonna do some business now. She's touring the facility, Z, and picking up slack, Vi. She's not gonna miss those things that need to be done. I'm reading through fast now, but there's a lot of Nyy'xai and a lot of Z and Vi, but coming from a Nyy'xai. Are you ready? I want a girl with a short skirt and a long jacket. I want a girl who gets up early. I want a girl who stays up late. I want a girl with uninterrupted prosperity, who uses a machete to cut through red tape, with fingernails that shine like justice, advocate, and a voice, this vibe, that is dark like tinted glass. She is fast and thorough and sharp as a tack. She's touring the facility and picking up slack. I want a girl with a short skirt and a long jacket. I want a girl with a smooth liquidation. Bring in sacred resources when needed smoothly. That smooth operation we talked about, he wants it to come when needed, smoothly. I want a girl with good dividends. She knows how to peak. At Citibank, we'll meet accidentally. Will we? Will it be an accident? Was it an accident, that girl from Avatar with the guy? I don't think so. We'll start to talk when she borrows my pen. Of course, heroes always meet in that shared equipment. She wants a car with a cup holder armrest. She wants a car that will get her there. The righteous intervener wants the Ni and the Zhai, but she wants it to work. She wants it to get the job done. She's got her dreams, her vision. She wants her heart to be taken care of, but she wants to win. And I'm just thinking with, I want a girl with a short skirt, Nyy'xai, and a long jacket, Ziva. So there you go, righteous intervener of the Nyy'xai.